Good morning. We're on deck. Prep test 86, logical reasoning, section 1. We begin with question number 21. The issue presented, the reasoning in the farmer's argument is most vulnerable to criticism on which one of the following grounds. Okay? So I have my issue, and now I want to read my law. And here it is. The farmer. Farming with artificial fertilizers, though more damaging to the environment than organic farming, allows more food to be grown on the same amount of land. I'm going to stop. Okay, so the farmer is pointing out that while there's a drawback to artificial fertilizing, but there's also a benefit. You grow more food. Next sentence. If all farmers were to practice organic farming, they would be unable to produce enough food for the Earth's growing population. You stop and you process. So this is when you say, if all farmers were to do something, okay, that's one scenario, that's one possibility. They don't have to do that. If they did that, you would have an outcome where you'd be unable to produce enough food for Earth's growing population. Got it. But you take that in. Okay, so that's one scenario. It's a possibility. If it can. If the game done. Right. Next. Hence. So because of this, being a possibility, one possibility. Hence, if enough food is to be produced, the currently popular practice of organic farming must not spread any further. And the flaw to me is quite clear. The argument sort of assumes that second sentence isn't just one possible scenario. The argument kind of assumes it's the only scenario, but that's not the way it's presented. So the flaw here is you say the conclusion being the popular practice of organic farming must not spread any further means we come to a dead stop, right? Dead, complete, total stop. But there's nothing in here that would preclude organic farming from continuing to grow, short of the position where everybody's doing it. When everybody's doing it, then we're in that second sentence and we don't have enough food. But the mere fact that, I'll make up a percentage, if 30% of folks are doing it now, that would allow continued growth in organic farming. So that's the flaw. They'll use the language they use, but that is the flaw. Okay. A. It takes for granted that farming with artificial fertilizers is only slightly more damaging to the environment than organic farming is. That's not the flaw. That's not stated in here. B. It overlooks the possibility that even if the practice of organic farming continues to spread, many farmers will choose not to adopt it. And of course, that's the answer. And I'm saying, you'll get to the point where if you're really applying yourself, and if you have the ability, in many of these cases, you're going to see the answer in your mind's eye before you ever look at the answer. So B is it. It's clear as can be, at least to me. I would not read C or D or E, and I'm out of here. But again, you got to go in there with some kind of thought in your mind. Okay, now let me look at C, D, and E. C, it fails to consider the possibility that at some points in human history, enough food was produced to feed the Earth's population without the use of artificial fertilizers. Well, that's not the flaw. The flaw is the second sentence and then the conclusion. D, it overlooks the possibility that a consequence that would surely follow if all farmers adopted the practice of organic farming would still ensue, even if not all of them did. And that's not the case. Let's break these. I can see somebody picking D, but that's not where we are. So D says, it overlooks the possibility that a consequence that would surely follow if all farmers adopted the practice of organic farming, would still ensue, even if all of them had not. And it takes the I mean, the best I get, it fails to account for the possibility that since it lays out this one cataclysmic outcome, the cataclysmic outcome is everybody goes to organic farming, right? And really what it's saying is, it's not telling me, well, if only 80% went to organic farming, we wouldn't have enough food. That's not what it says. What it says is if all farmers were to practice this stuff. So it's not taking the position that, well, you're going to have that same outcome even if only 75% do. It's not the position it takes. But again, if you're reading in a hurry and you're reading without precision, I certainly see how D would look attractive. Wrong, it looks attractive. E. It takes for granted that damage to the environment due to the continued use of artificial fertilizers would not be detrimental to human health, and it takes no such position. And, to me, if you're reading text and you've done IRAC, A, C, and E just aren't going to, they're just not going to do it for you. At worst you'd end up at B and D, and that really is, it's not, nobody's tricking you. It's, can you read with precision, because that's what we're paid to do, no matter what area of law we're in. Okay, the answer to 21 is B for brute. 22. The statements above, if true, most strongly support which one of the following? Okay, let me see what I got here. Again, keep in mind, as we get to these last five, they're very, 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 very likely there are high fail rates in affiliated these. So you need to read even more textual. Although severing a motor nerve kills part of the nerve, it can regenerate, growing about 1 millimeter per day from the point of the damage towards the muscle the nerve controls. Okay, so I think I have that. I got it. If I were to reread it, okay, if I sever a motor nerve, part of it can regenerate. It grows, 1 millimeter per day from the point of the damage towards whatever muscle that nerve controls. Got it. So, for example, I'm going to get an example of this. That'll help. For example, a severed motor nerve that controlled a hand muscle requires a much longer time to regenerate if that nerve is severed at the shoulder rather than at the wrist. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I got that. I see here that's going to take longer than here at 1 millimeter a day. Furthermore, the growing cells require the original nerve sheath to guide them to the area that has lost function. So I don't fully understand that, right? But so let me reread that. Furthermore, the growing cells require that the original nerve sheath, so the sheath sounds like the thing that would surround the nerve, it requires the sheath to guide them to the areas that lost function. Okay, so the sheath is taking it from my shoulder down to my hand. But that sheath begins to disintegrate after about 3 months, unless there is living nerve tissue within it. So let me just stop there again, because I know I'm going to be tested on how specific the language is, right? And it's foreign language. So the end of this, which informs me that that sheath, so I'm going to pretend it's up here, right? The sheath begins to disintegrate after about 3 months. Unless, so here's an exception, unless there is living nerve tissue within it. So if I have living nerve tissue within the sheath, it's less likely to disintegrate. Now you want to know what follows from that. And here's something where I really, my mind's not coming up with a descriptive answer. But I do understand what they've said. So now, let me see. So this is where the level of difficulty is higher, where you're saying, well, gosh, I can't give you the words the writer used. No, but I understand everything the writer told me. So let me see what I have here. A, is this what is most strongly supported? that doubling the speed at which new nerve cells grow will double the likelihood that a severed motor nerve will reach the muscle it had controlled. I mean, it sounds like it makes sense, but I really wasn't told anything in this argument about speed, just positioning. So, I mean, if nothing else made sense, okay, but I don't think that's most strongly supported. I think for sure you can infer that, but boy, I need to keep reading. B, it is sometimes possible, once a nerve sheath has begun to disintegrate, to reverse or slow the process of disintegration. Well, that goes to, and I think that's a great answer. It's wrong, but I think it's a great answer. But that's coming right out of that last sentence. Now, so this could, I don't know. It could be the case that it is sometimes possible that once the sheath has begun to disintegrate, right, you can reverse or slow the process of disintegration. You can absolutely infer that. But the thing about the language here is this last sentence. It says, but that sheet begins to disintegrate about 3 months unless there is living nerve tissue within it. So if there is no living nerve tissue within the sheet, I don't know that it's sometimes possible, once it has begun to disintegrate, which means there was no living nerve tissue in it, to reverse or slow that disintegration. Not based on what I was told in here. So this is pregnant with failure. It's a great, very difficult, I think, very precise argument. And I need to keep reading. C, if a severed motor nerve does not regenerate successfully within 3 months after being severed, functioning cannot be restored to the muscle that the nerve had controlled. And again, I don't know that. I mean, all these sounds like they make sense, but I'd have to speculate that there isn't some other way that functioning can be restored to the muscle. I've just been directed to this one relationship. So let me look at D. If living nerve tissue could be implanted and sustained within the original sheath of a severed motor nerve, the likelihood that the nerve will regenerate would increase in some cases. Yes. Okay, come down to this final sentence. And they're saying, if there were living nerve could be implanted within the original sheath, right, the likelihood the nerve will regenerate would increase in some cases. And that follows because we haven't reached any inference here, that any statement that it's begun to disintegrate. So look at the difference between D and B, where B is saying, well, it's already begun to disintegrate. And D says, if the living nerve tissues could be implanted and sustained within the original sheath, right, so it has begun to disintegrate, the likelihood the nerve will regenerate would increase in some cases. That's going to be the answer. It's really reading textually. A very interesting test. And E, without surgical intervention, a muscle that has lost function because of a severed motor nerve is unlikely to regain that function. Again, it sounds like it makes sense in regular life, but that's not what the LSAT is measuring. It's measuring what information were you given and what is most strongly supported by the information we're given, and the answer there is D for Drusen. Now let's hold it on there. Let's hold on 22.